Senator Ted Cruz, one of the smarter senators, technically speaking, that exists in our U.S. Congress, was out there using very, very interesting language to describe the January 6th Capitol riots, calling it terrorism, even though nobody has been charged with terrorism, even though nobody's been charged with insurrection, as we've been talking about on this channel for a long time. And it raised a lot of eyebrows. And now he's getting a lot of flack about it. And so since he used this language, he went on to Tucker Carlson's show and got a little bit emasculated, deservedly so, for this language. Here's what Ted Cruz said.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week. And it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in the.
There you have it. So people are very upset about that violent terrorist attack because, as I said, nobody's been charged with terrorism. And we're going to review the Capitol Hill cases that are being prosecuted by the U.S. Justice Department. And so people are scratching their heads. Ted Cruz, you're a very sophisticated person. You've graduated from the best law schools in the whole country, arguably the world. You use language very carefully. Why'd you use that word? Tucker Carlson asked him that question.
Appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess I mean, there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word, you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
It's very valid for Tucker not to believe that, as we'll talk about. But he was very cognizant of Ted Cruz's capabilities. He's got a lot of them. We can see here that he's gone to some of the best schools. He's got a lot of history as somebody with a lot of experience in the law. Princeton University. He went to Harvard Law School, pursued a career in politics. He was the Solicitor General of Texas. A lot of law involved in that. Been a senator for a long time, since 2012, and been involved in even almost potentially being named to the Supreme Court for a long time. Ran for president. We've been following Ted Cruz for some time. You can see here that when he was a clerk, when he was in law school or working his way up, he was a law clerk to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit back in 1995. Also to the Chief Justice William Rehnquist for the U.S. Supreme Court back in 1996. So he's been involved at the Harvard Law, Public Policy, Harvard Law Review, magna cum laude. He's the fellow in law and economics all over the place. Texas Review of Law and Politics, the Board of Advisors. Very intelligent legal mind. He uses language very carefully. And did you know what he said at the start of the interview? Tucker, I texted you last night about this. That was intentional because he knows this was going to be a hard interview, and he wants to deflate it a little bit by saying Tucker and I are just old texting buddies. He's telling the audience, you're about to see a little bit of aggression from Tucker towards me, but we're just texting buddies. It's all part of the show. Ted Cruz continues. Here's what he says.
Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists, and that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but even...
Wait a second. He's only talking about the violent people, right? And he just spoke out of turn. This was all just a big misunderstanding. One isolated incident. Don't take it out of context. But the internet doesn't forget. Neither does Twitter. Ted Cruz posted this back on January 7th, 1 year ago. On 2021 at 12:53 a.m. says the attack on the Capitol was a despicable act of terrorism. Right there. And a shocking assault on our democratic system. We must come together and put this anger and division behind us. We must, and I am confident we will, have a peaceful and orderly transition of power. My full statement. He came out and he said the attack was despicable. The Department of Justice should vigorously prosecute anyone and everyone who was involved in these brazen acts of violence. I thank the brave men and women of the Capitol who responded to restore peace. Now we must come together. That's why my colleagues and I are committed to moving past this and moving forward. Millions have peacefully expressed their opinions. Debate in the two houses is the proper way to resolve our differences, not through violent attacks. Now Congress must fulfill our duty. I'm confident that we'll be able to do that. So again, he calls it in his official press release a despicable act of terrorism. And so he's just confirming what he has already been saying. It's not an isolated incident. This is just what he thinks. And so Tucker Carlson asks him a very good question. How many people have been charged with terrorism there, Ted?
Wait, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side.
Why did you use that word there, Ted? And how many people have been charged with terrorism? Well, you can take a look. If you go over to the District of Columbia, the U.S. State's Attorney's Office, the United States Attorney's Office, the DOJ has a list of all the Capitol breach cases is what they call them. There are about 661 of them. We've talked a lot about them on the channel, and it works just like a search engine. You can go there, type in a keyword, type in the word Chansley for the QAnon shaman pictured here, and you'll see, boom, it shows up. Tells you exactly what's happened with the case. Arrested, indicted, plea agreement, got it. So what you can see here now is if you continue to search around, you'll see that there is nothing showing up for terror. There is actually a charge for terrorism. If you go over here to a Justice Department update that was posted on Monday, December 20th, 2021, you'll see that a federal court in Kentucky unsealed an indictment, charged a U.S. Bosnian citizen with providing support to ISIS, a designated organization, and he was charged with multiple terrorism accounts. FBI had photographs, he received weapons, physical training. So we know that the Justice Department can do that. We know that they can charge people with terrorism. They just haven't. And they're also not looking into everybody who is pertinent, are they? Same website, you take a look for somebody else like Ray Epps, and he doesn't show up either. No results found for this search. So Tucker Carlson goes back there to Ted Cruz. Would you like to try again, sir?
Characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
So Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word, for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again. That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday, and the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist. And so, look, I don't like people who assault cops, and I stand up and defend cops. And the reason I use that word is that's the word I've always used for people that violently attack cops. But in this context, I get why people were angry. Yeah. Because we've had a year of the corrupt corporate media and Democrats claiming anyone who objected to the election fraud. And by the way, remember what was happening during those protests?
Tucker's right to cut him off. He's going down this line. He's trying to make the argument that I've just been using this for years. This has been a natural thing that I've been just nonchalantly saying anytime I observe some sort of activity that looks like that. But that's not the reality here. Tucker Carlson calls him out on this. He calls him out and he says specifically, You used the word terrorism. Nobody's been charged with terrorism. And you just acknowledged in that clip that you know the Democrats are exploiting that word for political gain. And so you're not a dumb guy. Either you did it intentionally, or you are naive and not observant, and you're playing directly into your opponent's hand. So which is it? Neither is good. Tucker continues.
Insurrection. Saying it's an insurrection is a political term. It's a lie. I've repeatedly denounced it. And when it comes to, look, I was focusing on what I normally say. That what you aired was a little 15-second snippet. What I normally say is violence is wrong, peaceful protest is right. If you engage in violence, you should be prosecuted. If you're speaking, you have a right to speak. I say that all the time.
Well, I meant, and I agree.
But you didn't say that there, Ted. You didn't say that. You said this.
Of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol.
There was no statement in there about the other people out there peacefully protesting, honoring American traditions, about holding your government accountable. None of that. So slippery Ted Cruz being ultra slippery. You might even call Donald Trump and see what he had to say about this. Might harken back to the old campaign slogan, good old Lion Ted out there. He goes back on Tucker Carlson's show and sort of does the mea culpa, I'm sorry, kind of emasculating, but that's Ted Cruz. We'll continue to follow it along as he shapeshifts indefinitely. I will see you, my friends, on the next one.